My beloved child, listen carefully, because what I am about to reveal is not ordinary, not random, and not delayed by accident. In the courts of heaven, a harsh yet divine decision has just been sealed, and your name was spoken at the exact same moment your fate was placed on the altar. This is not symbolic. This is not poetry. This is real. And Archangel Michael is stepping forward now because time itself has shifted around you. You have felt it, haven't you? That strainy pressure in your spirit. The sense that something is about to happen, but you cannot explain what. Nights where sleep would not come easily. Moments where your heart felt heavy without reason. That was not anxiety. That was preparation. Because a door was held open for you longer than most, and heaven has now reached a decisive moment. Hear this clearly. The delay was not from God. The delay was mercy. Archangel Michael declares that a line has been drawn. Not in anger, but in order. Not in punishment, but in alignment. A divine assignment tied to your name has been paused before, shielded before, and protected before. But the warning is clear now. Delaying it even one more time can cause consequences, and it will be given to another. This is not meant to scare you. It is meant to awaken you. You were chosen for something that others could not carry. That is why resistance increased when you tried to move forward. That is why distractions multiplied when clarity finally came. That is why voices around you questioned what you felt so deeply inside. The enemy does not fight what is irrelevant. He only tries to stall what is dangerous to darkness. Archangel Michael stands as a warrior of truth, and he is not whispering today. He is declaring. He says the decision has already been made. Heaven is ready. The question is not whether God will move. The question is whether you will. You have been standing at the edge of obedience, calling it waiting. You have been standing at the edge of action, calling it preparation. But the season of internal confirmation has ended. What you asked God to clarify has already been clarified through signs, through repetition, through this very message finding you now. Do not ignore that inner reaction you just felt. A tightening in your chest. A sudden stillness. That is your spirit recognizing truth. There is a reason this message says open now. Because what is being offered is not meant to sit unopened. It is time sensitive. It carries authority, responsibility, and consequence. And yes, it can be reassigned. Heaven does not waste purpose. When a vessel refuses to move, another is prepared. But listen, this is not a threat. This is an invitation wrapped in urgency. Archangel Michael reveals that what is attached to this decision is not small. It affects more than you. Your obedience unlocks provision for others. Your movement releases protection over a space, a family, a calling, or a territory. You are not just choosing for yourself. You are standing at a crossroads where others are waiting for what flows through you. That is why the warning feels heavy. You have been asking God for confirmation, but what you truly needed was courage. Courage to step where fear hath been loud. Courage to say yes where comfort hath been safer. Courage to act even while questions remain. Faith was never about having all the answers. Faith has always been about moving when heaven speaks. And heaven is speaking now. Archangel Michael says that if you choose alignment in this moment, acceleration will follow. What felt delayed will move swiftly. What felt blocked will open. What felt confusing will suddenly make sense. But if you choose hesitation again, the weight you feel now will not lift. It will shift into regret. Let that sink in. This decision is connected to your name because it was written before you ever doubted yourself. It is connected to your fate because your destiny was never accidental. You were not overlooked. You were not late. You were not forgotten. But you are being tested for readiness, not worthiness. Readiness requires action. This message reached you because the window is still open, but not for long. Heaven does not shout often. When it does, it is because the moment matters. And this moment matters more than you realize. So pause, breathe, and ask yourself honestly, what have you been delaying that you already know you are meant to do? That answer is closer than you think. Beloved soul, the reason this message continues is because heaven is watching how you respond when truth presses closer. After the declaration was released, there was movement in the unseen. Not noise, movement. Archangel Michael did not step back after the warning. He stepped nearer. Because when a soul hears and does not turn away, heaven leans in. What you are facing right now is not confusion. It is confrontation between your calling and your comfort. You have been asking God to remove the pressure, but the pressure is not the problem. The pressure is proof that something valuable is being shaped. Gold is not formed in silence. It is refined under heat, and right now, your spirit is in refinement. Archangel Michael reveals that the decision tied to your name is connected to an assignment you already recognize, even if you have avoided naming it. You know what it is. It keeps returning in your thoughts. It appears in moments of quiet. It rises when you pray sincerely and disappears when distractions take over. That is not coincidence. That is calling. There has been a tug of war inside you. One voice says, wait until you feel ready. Another voice says, if not now, then when? The first voice sounds reasonable. The second voice sounds risky. But only one of them is from God. Heaven never waits for perfection. Heaven responds to obedience. Archangel Michael says something critical here. Delay does not always look like refusal. Sometimes delay hides behind logic, behind responsibility, behind fear dressed up as wisdom. But spiritual time does not pause just because a human heart hesitates. While you are weighing options, heaven is measuring readiness. You have wondered why certain opportunities faded when you did not act. Why certain people drifted away when you stayed silent. Why certain doors seemed to close without explanation. They were not punishments. They were signaled. Signals that alignment was required, not intention. This is why the warning was firm. What is being offered to you carries weight. It requires decision, not just belief. Faith without movement stays theory, and theory never changes destiny. Archangel Michael is clear. The moment you choose alignment, resistance will not vanish, but authority will rise. You will not suddenly feel fearless, but you will feel backed. To burden, strengthen. Heaven does not remove storms. It teaches you how to stand in them without falling. If you are feeling exposed by this message, that is because light has entered a hidden place. You have been strong for others, silent about yourself. You have carried responsibility, expectation, and pressure without complaint. But now, heaven is asking something of you personally. Not for others, not for appearances, for you. This assignment is not about recognition. It is about obedience. It is not about applause. It is about alignment. And that is why it has taken so long. God was not withholding. God was preparing. Archangel Michael warns that hesitation at this stage is more dangerous than failure. Failure can be redeemed. Disobedience hardens. The longer a calling is delayed, the harder it becomes to answer without resistance. That is why this moment feels urgent. Not rushed, urgent. Pause for a second and reflect. When was the last time you felt peace about staying exactly where you are? Not relief, not comfort. Peace. If it has been a long time, that is your confirmation. Heaven is not asking you to leap blindly. It is asking you to step faithfully. One step, not the entire journey. Just the next obedient move. And that move has already been highlighted to you in subtle ways. If this message is stirring something inside you, do not brush it off. Engage with it. Acknowledge it. There is power in agreement. When you agree with truth, truth strengthens you. And this is important. Do not walk this moment alone. If this message resonates, let it be known. Support the flow of what is being released here. When you like this message, when you share it with someone who needs confirmation, when you leave a comment saying, "I received this," you are not boosting a video. You are activating alignment. Subscribe to this space, because what is coming next builds on what has already been spoken. This is not random content. It is a sequence. Before you drift away or tell yourself you will return later, stay present. What unfolds next carries clarity that many are waiting for, and it connects directly to the consequence mentioned earlier. This is where the picture becomes sharper, and the choice becomes undeniable. Chosen one. The reason your spirit feels exposed right now is because heaven is not dealing with surface matters anymore. Archangel Michael reveals that this stage is about internal alignment, not external approval. What is unfolding is happening deeper than circumstances. It is happening at the level of identity. This is why emotions are surfacing that you thought were long gone. Old fears, old doubts, old questions about whether you are truly capable. None of this is accidental. The divine decision mentioned earlier was not only about what you must do, but about who you must become to carry it. You cannot step into a new assignment with an old self-image. Heaven is not interested in your past limitations. Heaven is focused on your future obedience. And the friction you feel now is the shedding of what no longer fits. Archangel Michael speaks of a spiritual weighing, not a judgment of worth, but a measurement of readiness. You have been trusted with insight, discernment, and awareness that many around you do not have. That is why your process hath been lonely. That is why advice from others often felt incomplete. You were not meant to be understood by everyone. You were meant to be aligned with heaven. There is something you must hear clearly. The reassignment warning was real, but so is heaven's desire for you to rise. God does not look for replacements eagerly. He looks for agreement. Even now, mercy is still active. The window remains open because your heart has not closed. But the next step requires more than internal agreement. It requires visible movement. Archangel Michael reveals that the consequences mentioned are not punishment, but spiritual loss. Loss of momentum, loss of timing, loss of the ease that comes with obedience. When an assignment is delayed too long, it does not disappear. It becomes heavier. What once could have been carried with grace becomes a burden carried with regret. That is why this message is firm. You may be wondering why this feels so intense. Why now? Why this pressure? It is because what is attached to your obedience is not small. Your yes impacts people you may never meet. Your courage opens paths for others who are watching your life silently. You are a signal bearer, whether you realize it or not. Archangel Michael says that the enemy's greatest strategy against you was not destruction, but delay. He could not stop you, so he tried to slow you. He could not silence you, so he tried to distract you. And there were moments when it worked. Not because you were weak, but because you were human. Yet heaven did not withdraw. Heaven waited. Now comes the turning point. This is the moment where clarity replaces confusion, where fear is confronted, not avoided, where obedience becomes practical, not theoretical. You do not need to know every detail. You only need to act on what has already been revealed. God does not reveal step 10 to someone who has not taken step 1. If your heart feels heavy, let it be heavy with truth, not fear. If your eyes feel tired, let them be tired from seeing clearly, not from avoiding reality. This is a sacred moment. Do not rush past it. Do not numb it. Do not scroll away from it internally. Archangel Michael declares that when you move, support will appear in unexpected forms. Resources will align. Conversations will open. Strength will rise at the moment it is needed, not before. That is how faith works. Provision follows obedience, not the other way around. Take a breath here. This message did not find you by chance. It arrived because you are standing at the threshold of alignment, and heaven is waiting for your response. Type "I accept the call" in the comments if this message has reached your spirit. Blessing code 8841 has just been released. And now hear this carefully, because this is not separate from the message. It is part of it. As this word goes forth, it is touching lives across the world, reaching souls who are also standing at the edge of obedience. When you support this mission through super thanks, membership, or PayPal from the link in the description, you are not giving to a channel, you are sowing into light. I hear the Lord saying, as you release into my work, I will release oil into your hands and clarity into your path. This is a prophetic act, not a donation. What you sow here becomes a river that reaches others who are still lost in delay. Do not hesitate when heaven prompts you. Step into alignment now. Beloved one, now that the weight of the decision has been revealed, heaven shifts the focus from urgency to understanding. Archangel Michael does not only warn, he also strengthens. He knows that a soul cannot walk forward if it does not understand what it is leaving behind. This part is about separation, because every divine movement requires release. There are things in your life that once served a purpose but no longer do. They were safe places, familiar rhythms, people, habits, and even identities that helped you survive an earlier season. But survival is not the same as fulfillment. What kept you stable before may now be limiting your growth. This is why you feel tension when you try to move forward while holding on to the past. Archangel Michael reveals that one of the hardest tests you face is not fear of failure, but fear of loss. You are not only afraid of stepping into the unknown, you are afraid of letting go of what you know. Even if it is uncomfortable, it is familiar, and familiarity can feel like safety, even when it is no longer aligned. Heaven is asking you to release without resentment, to let go without bitterness, to step forward without carrying the weight of what could not follow you. This is not abandonment. This is transition. And transition always feels unstable before it feels freeing. You may notice that certain conversations feel different now. Certain environments drain you faster than before. Certain compromises no longer sit well in your spirit. That is not judgment. That is discernment increasing. When God prepares you for something new, your tolerance for misalignment decreases. What once felt neutral now feels heavy. Archangel Michael says this is a sign of maturity, not pride. You are outgrowing spaces that cannot hold who you are becoming. And outgrowing does not mean condemning. It simply means moving on. There is also grief in this process, and heaven acknowledges it. You are allowed to mourn what you must release. You are allowed to feel the ache of change. Faith does not cancel emotion. It gives it direction. Do not suppress what you feel. Bring it into prayer. Let God meet you there. What you must not do is turn back out of nostalgia. Nostalgia can disguise itself as wisdom, but it often pulls you backward instead of grounding you forward. The past will always try to call you when the future feels uncertain. That does not mean the past is your destination. Archangel Michael warns that if you try to carry both seasons at once, you will feel divided. Confuse it. Drain it. That division is not spiritual attack. It is misalignment. You were not created to live split between what was and what will be. You were created to move whole into what is next. There is something else being revealed here. Not everyone who walked with you before is meant to walk with you now. This does not make them enemies. It makes them season-specific. God uses different people in different chapters. Holding on to everyone can delay what God wants to do through you. This is why silence has surrounded you at times. Why certain voices grew quieter. Why support seemed to thin out. It was not abandonment. It was refinement. Heaven was narrowing the noise so you could hear more clearly. Archangel Michael speaks gently here. Do not mistake solitude for rejection. Solitude is often preparation. God removes distractions before he releases direction. What feels empty now is being cleared for what is coming. You are learning to trust God without constant reassurance, to move without applause, to obey without explanation. This is the training ground for authority. Those who require constant validation cannot carry heavy assignments. Heaven is strengthening your inner resolve. Pay attention to what brings you peace now. Not excitement. Not adrenaline. Peace. That is your compass. If something drains your peace, it is not aligned, no matter how logical it seems. If something challenges you but brings quiet assurance, that is likely where heaven is leading. Archangel Michael reminds you that obedience often feels lonely at first, but it never ends lonely. God always meets obedience with presence. You may not feel surrounded now, but you are not unsupported. Angels are active. Protection is in place. Guidance is unfolding step by step. This part of the journey is about trust without evidence, about movement without guarantees, about letting go without knowing exactly what you will receive in return. And that is where faith becomes real. As you read or hear this, something within you is settling. Not because everything is resolved, but because something is aligning. That quiet settling is important. Do not rush past it. This is your spirit agreeing with heaven. What comes next will require clarity, not courage alone. And clarity is coming. Beloved child, now heaven begins to speak about positioning. Archangel Michael reveals that obedience alone is not enough if you are standing in the wrong place. Movement must be paired with alignment, and alignment requires awareness. This is the phase where God begins to reposition you quietly, often without announcement, so that what is coming can find you ready. You may notice subtle shifts happening around you. Not dramatic changes, but quiet rearrangements. Plans that no longer excite you. Invitations that suddenly feel off. Goals that once motivated you but now feel hollow. This is not confusion. This is discernment sharpening. Heaven is refining your sense of direction. Archangel Michael explains that many delays in destiny are not caused by disobedience, but by misplacement. A person can be willing and sincere, yet still remain stuck because they are standing where God never intended them to stay. That is why this season feels like recalibration. God is adjusting your footing before releasing forward momentum. There is an internal question rising within you. Where do I truly belong now? That question is holy. It signals transition. You are no longer satisfied with surface-level purpose. You want substance. You want meaning. You want alignment that brings peace, not just progress. This is also why impatience has tried to creep in. When purpose becomes clearer, waiting becomes harder. But hear this clearly. Waiting is not wasted when it is guided. Heaven never delays without reason. Timing is part of the gift. What arrives too early can damage what arrives too late. God is precise, not slow. Archangel Michael reveals that you are being positioned away from noise and closer to clarity. That is why some connections are fading without conflict. That is why certain doors are closing gently instead of forcefully. God is removing what could distract you from recognizing the right opening when it appears. You may feel like you are in between worlds right now, no longer comfortable where you were, but not yet settled where you are going. This in-between space can feel unsettling, but it is sacred. It is the place where identity shifts from who you were to who you are becoming. Do not rush through this stage. Rushing creates misalignment. Restlessness can cause you to settle for substitutes instead of waiting for what is authentic. Archangel Michael warns that substitutes often look productive but leave you empty. Authentic assignments may challenge you, but they feed your spirit. There is also a lesson about listening here, not to every voice but to the right ones. In this season, too many opinions can dilute clarity. Advice that is not rooted in your calling can lead you off course, even when well-intended. That is why solitude hath been important. God has been training your ear. Pay attention to Evatian. What message keeps returning? What truth keeps surfacing in different forms? Heaven often confirms direction through repetition, not novelty. What keeps coming back is likely where God is pointing. Archangel Michael says something crucial here. Your next step will not require force. It will require recognition. You will not have to push doors open. You will recognize the one that opens with peace. Even if it scares you, it will feel right in a way that logic cannot fully explain. This part of the journey teaches you to value inner peace over external validation. Applause fades. Approval shifts. But peace anchors you. God is teaching you to move from that anchor, not from pressure or expectation. You may be tempted to compare your pace with others. Resist that urge. Comparison distorts timing. What God is doing in you is specific, not generic. Others may move faster because their assignments are different. Speed is not proof of favor. Alignment is. Archangel Michael reminds you that heaven's pace is intentional. When God positions someone carefully, it is because what they are about to carry is heavy with responsibility. Precision matters. Placement matters. Timing matters. You are closer than you think. Not to the end, but to clarity. And clarity changes everything. When clarity comes, hesitation loses its power. Fear loses its voice. You may still feel nervous, but you will no longer feel lost. Notice how your prayers are changing. You are asking fewer questions and seeking more confirmation. That shift is important. It means your spirit is aligning with direction rather than resisting it. This stage may not feel exciting, but it is stabilizing. It is grounding you so that when acceleration comes, you do not lose balance. Many fall not because they moved forward, but because they were not positioned well when movement increased. Archangel Michael assures you that nothing in this season is random. Even the quiet days matter. Even the pauses have purpose. Heaven is arranging details you cannot see yet. Stay attentive. Stay receptive. Stay honest with God about what you feel. You are being positioned for what was decided earlier, and when the moment arrives, you will understand why this part was necessary. What follows next will bring definition to the direction that has been forming quietly within you. Beloved one, this is the stage where resistance often increases, not because you are doing something wrong, but because you are getting closer to alignment. Archangel Michael reveals that spiritual pressure intensifies just before clarity becomes unavoidable. The enemy does not wait until you arrive. He reacts when you begin to move with intention. That is why this part feels heavier than the last, even though nothing dramatic has happened outwardly. You may feel tested in subtle ways. Small frustrations, unexpected delays, emotional waves that come without warning. Old thoughts trying to resurface, whispering that you are not ready or that this path is too costly. These are not signs to stop. They are signs that your movement is being noticed in the unseen. Archangel Michael stands firm here and says that endurance is being trained. Not endurance to survive, but endurance to stand. There is a difference. Survival keeps you going. Standing establishes you. God is not preparing you to barely make it through. He is preparing you to remain steady when responsibility increases. This is also the part where distractions attempt to reclaim your attention. Things that once mattered to you suddenly resurface, asking for emotional energy. Old habits knock softly, not loudly. Old comforts present themselves as harmless relief. But discernment is required now more than ever. What you feed in this season will determine how strong you stand in the next. You are learning that saying yes to God often requires saying no to things that are not sinful, but simply misaligned. That is one of the hardest lessons. Not everything you must release is bad. Some things are good, just not for where you are going. And letting go of good things can be more painful than letting go of harmful ones. Archangel Michael speaks clearly. Do not confuse fatigue with failure. You are tired because you are carrying something new internally. Your spirit is adjusting. Growth always consumes energy before it produces fruit. Rest when needed, but do not retreat. There may also be moments where you feel misunderstood, when others question your choices or cannot see what you see. This can create doubt if you are not grounded. Remember this: vision is not democratic. God does not reveal the same thing to everyone. If He did, obedience would not require faith. This is where conviction must outweigh consensus. You are not called to be agreed with. You are called to be aligned. Archangel Michael reminds you that many biblical figures were misunderstood before they were trusted. Approval often comes after obedience, not before. You are also being taught how to respond rather than react. Reaction is emotional. Response is intentional. When pressure rises, reaction weakens authority. Response strengthens it. God is slowing your reaction so He can sharpen your responses. Pay attention to how you handle opposition now. Not just external opposition, but internal resistance. The way you speak to yourself matters. The narratives you allow to play in your mind matter. Replace accusation with truth. Replace fear with remembrance. You have not come this far by accident. If this message is helping you see what you could not name before, do not keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who is also standing in transition. When you like this message, when you comment and declare that you are still here, you are not just engaging with a video. You are reinforcing agreement with what God is doing in you. Subscribe to this space and stay connected, because this flow is intentional and progressive. It builds layer by layer. Archangel Michael emphasizes that community matters, even in seasons of solitude. You may walk alone at times, but you should not walk disconnected. God often confirms His word through repetition and shared resonance. When something is truly from Him, it will echo. This is also a moment of strengthening commitment. Half-hearted obedience produces double-minded results. Heaven responds fully when obedience is full. Decide in your heart that you are not turning back to who you were before clarity came. You may pause, but you do not retreat. There is a refining happening in your motivations as well. God is purifying why you want what you want. Desire rooted in ego will collapse under pressure. Desire rooted in purpose will endure. This refinement protects you from burnout later. Archangel Michael assures you that help is closer than it appears. Support will not always come in the form you expect, but it will come in the form you need. Sometimes it arrives as strength, sometimes as wisdom, sometimes as restraint. All of it is grace. You may feel like nothing has changed yet, but internally, everything is shifting. Your tolerance for compromise is lower. Your hunger for truth is higher. Your sensitivity to alignment is sharper. These are signs of readiness, not restlessness. Before you move on mentally, stay present here. This is one of those moments where understanding deepens quietly, not loudly. Hold on, because what unfolds next brings revelation that connects every warning, every delay, and every stirring you have felt so far. This is where the pattern becomes visible. Beloved child, now heaven begins to unveil the pattern that has been forming beneath everything you have experienced. Archangel Michael reveals that nothing you walked through was random, wasted, or disconnected. What felt like scattered seasons were actually coordinated steps, each one training a different part of you for what is now approaching. This is the moment where understanding replaces frustration. You have often asked why your path looked different from others, why progress came in waves instead of straight lines, why moments of breakthrough were followed by periods of silence. The answer is this: God was building depth before visibility. What you are being prepared for cannot rest on shallow roots. It requires inner strength, spiritual maturity, and emotional stability. Archangel Michael explains that the reason delay was permitted is because character must be strong enough to carry calling without collapsing under it. Exposure without grounding destroys people. Acceleration without discipline ruins destinies. Heaven chose to protect you by slowing the process, even when you prayed for speed. This part is about recognizing how much you have already grown. You no longer react the way you used to. You no longer tolerate what once drained you. You no longer chase validation the way you once did. These are not small changes. They are signs of transformation. You are not who you were, even if you do not yet see who you will be. There is also clarity coming about pain. Some of what hurt you deeply was not meant to break you, but to teach you discernment. Betrayals sharpened your wisdom. Disappointments refined your expectations. Loss taught you dependence on God rather than people. None of it was pleasant, but all of it was purposeful. Archangel Michael says that heaven trusted you with experiences that others might not have survived. Not because you were stronger at the time, but because you were teachable. God does not entrust depth to pride. He entrusts it to humility. And humility has been growing quietly in you. You may still carry questions about why certain prayers were not answered the way you hoped, why certain doors never reopened, why closure did not come in the form you expected. This is where surrender becomes necessary. Some answers only make sense when viewed from the next level. God often explains later what He protected you from earlier. This part also reveals why urgency has increased. You are no longer in preparation mode alone. You are approaching execution. When preparation ends, expectation rises. Heaven begins to look for movement, not just understanding. Knowledge without application creates stagnation. Archangel Michael speaks firmly here. You are not being rushed, but you are being activated. There is a difference. Rushing creates anxiety. Activation produces focus. You may feel pressured, but it is directional, not chaotic. It is pushing you forward, not scattering you. Notice how your prayers are becoming more direct. You are asking fewer why questions and more how questions. That shift matters. It means your heart is aligning with action. God responds quickly when a heart is willing to move. There is also a shedding happening. You are letting go of identities that were built around pain, survival, or struggle. You are no longer meant to define yourself by what you endured. You are meant to define yourself by what you are becoming. Healing is not forgetting the past. It is no longer living from it. Archangel Michael reminds you that authority comes from alignment, not experience alone. You can have knowledge without authority. Authority is released when heaven recognizes obedience. That is why this decision matters so much. It is the gateway between preparation and release. You may still feel moments of hesitation, but they no longer control you. They visit, but they do not rule. Fear has lost its throne. It may speak, but it no longer decides. That is progress. This is also where responsibility becomes clearer. What is coming will require consistency, not just passion. Passion ignites beginnings. Consistency is assignment. God is preparing you for longevity, not just impact. Archangel Michael says that heaven is watching how you steward small confirmations now. The way you respond to subtle direction determines how much weight you can carry later. Faithfulness in small obedience builds trust for larger release. Pay attention to your inner dialogue. It is becoming more grounded, less reactive, more discerning. That is not accidental. God is stabilizing your inner world so external changes do not destabilize you. This part may feel quieter than the warning, but it is just as important. Warning awakens. Understanding anchors. Without anchoring, awakening fades. Heaven wants this word to take root, not just create emotion. You are standing at the edge of movement that will require clarity, courage, and commitment. You are closer to stepping forward than you realize. The reason things are making sense now is because the fog is lifting. And when fog lifts, direction becomes unavoidable. What comes next will speak directly about the moment of action itself, what to expect, what to guard, and how heaven responds when obedience is finally chosen. Stay present, because this next unveiling ties everything together. Beloved one, this is the moment where heaven speaks about crossing over. Archangel Michael reveals that everything you have felt building up has been leading to a threshold, not a feeling. Thresholds are not emotional experiences. They are points of no return. Once crossed, you cannot go back to who you were before clarity arrives. This is why this stage feels solemn, weighty, and sacred. Up until now, preparation, positioning, and pressure were shaping you internally. But now heaven addresses action. Not dramatic action. Not impulsive leaps. But deliberate, obedient movement. The kind that feels quiet on the outside but thunderous in the unseen. Archangel Michael declares that when you move in obedience, even subtly, realms respond. You may be waiting for a sign so obvious that it removes all doubt. But hear this clearly. Confirmation has already been given. Repeatedly. Through conviction. Through this message finding you again and again. Through the inner knowing that has not left you alone. At this point, seeking more signs can become a form of delay disguised as spirituality. Archangel Michael warns gently, but firmly, that hesitation at the threshold is the most dangerous place to linger. Before the threshold, delay is preparation. After the threshold is visible, delay becomes resistance. Not rebellion, but resistance born from fear of responsibility. There is something important being revealed here. Once you cross, accountability increases. What you carry will require stewardship. What you receive will require consistency. This is why your spirit has felt the seriousness of this moment. You are not just stepping into blessing. You are stepping into trust. You may feel a strange mix of peace and fear right now. Peace because you know this is right. Fear because you know this is real. That combination is not a warning. It is confirmation. False paths excite without grounding. True paths ground even when they stretch you. Archangel Michael says that obedience does not eliminate struggle, but it redefines it. You will no longer struggle with direction, but with discipline. You will no longer struggle with identity, but with consistency. These are higher-level struggles, and they produce lasting fruit. This is also where heaven begins to separate spectators from participants. Many will cheer from a distance. Few will walk with you closely. That is not loneliness. That is focus. You cannot carry this assignment while managing everyone's expectations. Notice how your tolerance for distraction has dropped. How surface-level engagement feels draining. How your appetite for depth has increased. These are signs that you are ready to cross. Heaven does not open thresholds for the curious. It opens them for the committed. Archangel Michael declares that once you move, even imperfectly, protection increases. Support systems you could not access before become available. Wisdom sharpens. Discernment strengthens. You are not stepping into this alone. Angels are assigned to movement, not stagnation. There is also a warning wrapped in mercy. Do not try to carry yesterday's habits into tomorrow's calling. What sustained you before may sabotage you later. This is not about behavior modification. It is about alignment. What does not align will feel heavy quickly. As you stand here, the question is no longer, am I chosen? That hath been answered. The question is, will I respond? Heaven respects choice. God does not force destiny. He offers it. Type I crossover in the comments if your spirit is saying yes. Blessing code 1936 has just been released. And now, let this flow naturally, because this moment is not only personal, it is collective. As this word crosses continents and screens, it is reaching others who are standing at the same threshold. I hear the Lord saying, those who help carry this message will share in its harvest. When you release support through Super Thanks, membership, or PayPal using the link in the description, you are not funding content. You are fueling crossing points for other souls. This is seed meeting soil at the exact moment of readiness. As you sow, I declare open heavens over your obedience, oil over your hands, and acceleration over what you have been waiting on. Do not delay when God prompts you. Act now, and watch what heaven responds to. Beloved child, after crossing comes settling. This is a truth many are not taught, and because of that, they misinterpret what happens next. Archangel Michael reveals that once obedience is chosen, there is often a quieter phase that follows, not because momentum has stopped, but because alignment is being secured. Heaven does not rush what must last. You may notice that after the intensity of decision, things feel unexpectedly still. Not empty. Still. This stillness can feel confusing if you expected immediate visible results. But understand this clearly. Stillness after obedience is not stagnation. It is stabilization. God is anchoring you so that what begins does not collapse under its own weight. Archangel Michael explains that when a threshold is crossed, spiritual gravity changes. Old cycles lose their pull. Old temptations lose their grip. but new responsibilities begin to press in. This is where discipline quietly replaces adrenaline, and discipline is what separates momentary breakthroughs from lasting transformation. You are learning how to live from a place of decision, not emotion. Before, motivation rose and fell. Now, commitment sustains you even when feelings fluctuate. This is maturity. You are no longer driven by constant reassurance. You are guided by conviction. There may be moments where you wonder if you imagined the urgency from before, if perhaps you overreacted. This is normal. The mind often tries to reassert control after the spirit has led. But notice this: even if the emotional intensity has softened, your direction has not changed. That is how you know the decision was real. Archangel Michael says that heaven often quiets the noise after obedience so you can hear instruction more clearly. Loud moments awaken. Quiet moments instruct. You are now in an instructional phase. Pay attention to small nudges, subtle shifts, gentle redirections. These are not insignificant. They are precise. You may also find that certain struggles you expected do not appear, and others you did not expect suddenly surface. Do not be alarmed. When God removes one layer of resistance, another area is revealed for growth. This is not regression. It is refinement. There is also a shift happening in how you view time. You are less frantic, less rushed, more intentional. You understand now that speed without alignment leads to burnout. Archangel Michael affirms that heaven values sustainability over spectacle. What God is building through you is meant to endure. Relationships will also adjust in this phase. Some will reconnect in healthier ways. Others will naturally distance. Do not chase either outcome. Let alignment decide. You are no longer meant to manage every connection. God is filtering your environment to support your assignment. You may feel a deeper sense of responsibility now. Not pressure, but ownership. You are aware that your choices carry weight beyond yourself. This awareness is a sign that authority is forming. Authority always begins internally before it is seen externally. Archangel Michael reveals that this stage is where many grow impatient and attempt to manufacture results. Resist that urge. What is growing beneath the surface cannot be rushed without damage. Roots must deepen before fruit appears. Anything else creates instability. If doubts arise, address them honestly, but do not entertain them endlessly. Bring them to God, not to fear. Questioning can be healthy. Dwelling can be destructive. There is a difference. Trust the clarity that led you here. You are also learning how to rest without disengaging, to pause without retreating, to breathe without abandoning direction. This balance is important. Burnout often comes from misunderstanding rest. Rest is not stopping the journey. It is sustaining it. Archangel Michael reassures you that heaven has not moved on. Angels are still assigned. Guidance is still active. Just because things are quieter does not mean support has lessened. Often, it means you are becoming more capable of carrying responsibility without constant intervention. Notice how your prayers feel more grounded now, less desperate, more declarative. You are not begging for direction. You are asking for wisdom. That shift indicates trust. God responds differently to trust than to panic. There may also be moments where you grieve who you used to be. The version of you that was simpler, less aware, less responsible. That grief is natural. Growth always includes loss. But you are not losing yourself. You are refining yourself. Archangel Michael says that heaven honors consistency more than intensity. Many can respond strongly once, Few can walk steadily over time. You are being trained for steadiness, for faithfulness when no one is watching, for obedience when it feels ordinary. This part of the journey may not feel dramatic, but it is deeply formative. The foundations being set now will determine how much you can carry later. Skipping this stage would weaken what comes next. Remain attentive. Stay teachable. Guard your peace. You are not waiting for something to begin. You are already in it. What is unfolding now is preparing you for expansion. And what follows next will speak about increase. How heaven releases more once alignment is proven faithful. Beloved one, now heaven speaks about increase, but not the kind most people expect. Archangel Michael reveals that true increase does not begin with visibility. It begins with capacity. Before God expands what is seen, He enlarges what can be carried. This is why the last stage focused on steadiness. Increase without stability would fracture what you have already built. You may feel an internal stretching right now. New ideas forming. New responsibilities appearing. New expectations rising within you. This is not pressure from outside. It is expansion from within. God is increasing your capacity to hold wisdom, patience, authority, and responsibility at the same time. This kind of growth is quiet but profound. Archangel Michael explains that many people desire increase because they want change, but heaven releases increase when it sees consistency. Consistency proves that blessing will be stewarded, not squandered. You are being trusted with more because you did not abandon what you were already given. This stage often reveals blind spots, areas where refinement is still needed, not to disqualify you, but to protect you. God corrects where He intends to grow. If something is being highlighted now, do not take it as criticism. Take it as care. Heaven only prunes what is alive. You may notice that your discernment is sharper now. You see through situations faster. You recognize misalignment sooner. This is part of increase. Discernment is a form of authority. It allows you to move efficiently without unnecessary loss of energy. There is also an increase in influence happening, even if it is subtle. People may begin to ask for your insight, to trust your judgment, to notice your steadiness. Influence does not always announce itself. Sometimes it grows quietly until it becomes undeniable. Archangel Michael says this is where humility must remain strong. Increase can magnify whatever already exists. If humility is present, it deepens. If ego is present, it swells. Guard your heart here. Stay grounded in gratitude, not entitlement. Everything you are carrying is still grace. You are also learning to manage boundaries more clearly. Saying no without guilt. Saying yes without overextending. This balance is critical for sustainable increase. Burnout often masquerades as dedication, but heaven does not reward self-neglect. God values stewardship of the self as much as stewardship of assignment. This is also a season where timing becomes more sensitive. Acting too soon or too late can cost momentum. That is why listening is emphasized now. Not frantic listening, but attentive awareness. God often whispers at this level because shouting is no longer necessary. If you feel a growing responsibility to remain spiritually attentive, that is intentional. You are being trained to lead yourself well. External structure matters less when internal discipline is strong. Heaven is trusting you to self-govern under guidance. Do not be surprised if certain tests resurface, not because you failed before, but because you are ready to pass them differently now. Old triggers may appear, but your responses have changed. That is evidence of growth. The test is the same, but the result is not. If this message is sharpening your understanding and helping you recognize what God is doing beneath the surface, do not let it end here. Engage with it. Like this message to affirm agreement. Share it with someone who needs perspective in their season of increase. Leave a comment declaring that you are committed to stewardship, not just blessing. Subscribe and stay connected, because what is unfolding here is progressive and intentional. Archangel Michael emphasizes that increase does not mean ease. It means effectiveness. You may still face challenges, but you will handle them with greater clarity and authority. What once overwhelmed you will now be managed with wisdom. There is also a shift in how you define success. You are less impressed by speed and more anchored in faithfulness. Less drawn to noise and more committed to substance. This redefinition protects you from chasing what looks impressive but lacks longevity. You may feel moments of excitement mixed with seriousness. That balance is healthy. Excitement fuels vision. Seriousness sustains responsibility. Heaven is cultivating both in you. Before you move on mentally, pause here. Let this understanding settle. Many people rush past the increase stage and miss the lessons that protect it. You are being invited to slow down just enough to integrate what you are receiving. Hold on, because what comes next reveals how heaven responds when increase is stewarded well, and what opens when faithfulness is proven over time. Beloved child, now heaven speaks about confirmation through fruit. Archangel Michael reveals that when alignment, obedience, and stewardship come together, evidence begins to appear, not always loudly, but unmistakably. This is the stage where inner change starts to manifest outwardly, even if subtly at first. What was built in secret begins to show signs of life. You may notice small but meaningful shifts. Decisions that once felt heavy now feel clear. Situations that once drained you now resolve faster. Conversations that used to confuse you now end with understanding. These are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Heaven is affirming that you are walking in step, even if the road still stretches ahead. Archangel Michael explains that fruit does not appear all at once. It ripens gradually. If you rush to evaluate too early, you may miss what is forming. That is why patience is still required here. Not passive patience, but confident patience. The kind that knows growth is happening even when it is not fully visible yet. This part is also about trust deepening. You are no longer constantly checking whether you heard God correctly. You are beginning to trust the direction you chose. That trust stabilizes you. It frees mental energy. It allows you to focus on execution instead of second-guessing. There may still be challenges, but notice how your posture toward them has changed. You are less reactive, more discerning. You address issues without panic. That is fruit. Peace under pressure is one of the clearest signs of spiritual maturity. Archangel Michael reveals that this stage often attracts attention. Not always public attention, but spiritual attention. Both light and resistance notice when someone begins to walk consistently in alignment. Do not be surprised if opposition attempts to reappear, not stronger, but more strategic. Its goal is not to stop you, but to distract you. This is why focus is emphasized again. You have learned many lessons so far. Now you are learning integration, bringing wisdom, discipline, faith, and rest into harmony. Fragmented strength weakens impact. Integrated strength multiplies it. You may feel a growing sense of responsibility to guard what you have gained. Your peace, your clarity, your rhythm. That instinct is wise. Not everything deserves access to you anymore. Stewardship includes protection. What God entrusts must be guarded intentionally. Archangel Michael says that heaven is pleased with consistency more than perfection. You may still make mistakes, but you are no longer abandoning the path when you stumble. You correct, realign, and continue. That perseverance builds trust in the unseen. There is also a shift in how you view setbacks. They no longer feel like signs to stop, but signals to adjust. That mindset is crucial. People who succeed long-term do not avoid obstacles, they learn from them quickly. You may notice gratitude rising more naturally now. Not forced gratitude, but genuine appreciation. For growth, for clarity, for resilience. Gratitude is another form of fruit. It reflects contentment without complacency. Archangel Michael reminds you that fruit is not only for you. It feeds others. Your stability encourages those watching silently. Your obedience gives others permission to trust God with their own steps. You may not see the full impact, but it is real. This stage also teaches humility and success. As things begin to work, pride may attempt to attach itself quietly. Guard against it. Remember where you came from. Remember the uncertainty, the fear, the hesitation. Let gratitude keep you grounded. You are also learning to discern timing more accurately. When to act, when to wait, when to speak, when to stay silent. This discernment is refined through experience, not theory, and you are gaining it. Archangel Michael reveals that heaven often confirms alignment by peace, not applause. If you feel grounded even without recognition, that is confirmation. External validation is not required when internal alignment is strong. You may still have moments where you wonder what comes next. That is natural. But notice this. The question no longer creates anxiety. It creates curiosity. That shift matters. Curiosity trusts that something good is ahead. Anxiety fears that something is missing. This is a season of quiet confidence. Not loud declarations, but steady movement. Not dramatic shifts, but reliable progress. Heaven values this more than spectacle. Stay faithful in what is in front of you now. Do not rush ahead mentally. The next unfolding will come in its time. You are exactly where you need to be. What follows next will close the circle. It will speak about fulfillment, release, and the responsibility that comes with what has been entrusted. Stay attentive, because the final unveiling carries both promise and charge. Beloved one, this is the closing seal, not the ending of the journey. Archangel Michael reveals that fulfillment is not a finish line. It is a state of alignment where heaven and your obedience move together. What began as a warning has now matured into responsibility. What started with urgency has settled into authority. This is the moment where destiny is no longer theoretical. It is lived. You may feel a calm resolve now, different from the earlier pressure. That calm is not relief from responsibility. It is readiness to carry it. Heaven does not remove weight at this stage. Heaven distributes it properly. You are no longer holding everything at once. You are holding what is yours to carry, and that is why it feels manageable. Archangel Michael declares that fulfillment comes when your inner world and outer actions agree. You are no longer torn between what you believe and what you do. That unity is powerful. Divided hearts hesitate. Unified hearts move with confidence. This unity is what heaven hath been cultivating all along. There is also a release happening here. Not release from effort, but release into flow. When obedience becomes consistent, resistance loses leverage. You still face challenges, but they no longer define your pace. You set the rhythm now, guided by discernment rather than fear. You may notice that gratitude feels deeper than before, not because everything is perfect, but because you recognize how far you have come. Reflection brings humility. Humility sustains favor. Archangel Michael reminds you that remembering the process protects the promise. This final stage also brings accountability. What has been entrusted to you must be stewarded with integrity. Fulfillment is not about arrival, it is about maintenance. You are now responsible to guard what was given: your peace, your clarity, your discipline, and your direction. Neglect would not erase the calling, but it would dull its impact. Stewardship keeps it sharp. There is a warning here, spoken gently. Do not drift. Drift happens quietly, not rebelliously. It happens when attention wanes and routine replaces intention. Stay alert. Stay prayerful. Stay honest with God about your inner state. Consistency keeps alignment alive. Archangel Michael also speaks of expansion beyond what you can currently see. Fulfillment at this level opens doors to broader influence, not necessarily louder, but wider. More lives touched. More stability offered. More truth carried. Your obedience has multiplied your reach, even if you cannot yet measure it. You are also learning that rest is part of fulfillment. Not escape, but renewal. Rest refuels discernment. It prevents pride. It keeps your spirit sensitive. Do not confuse rest with retreat. Rest is preparation for continued faithfulness. As this message concludes, let this be clear. The decision spoken at the beginning was honored. A delay was confronted. The crossing was made, and heaven responded. What remains now is daily faithfulness. That is where legacy is built. Archangel Michael affirms that you are not walking alone. Guidance continues. Protection remains. Correction was come when it and behusrection is love in avian. Heaven is invested in your endurance, not just your start. If you ever feel the weight again, return to alignment. Ask not, am I chosen? But am I faithful today? That question keeps you grounded. Destiny is fulfilled one obedient day at a time. Type "I walk in alignment" in the comments if you receive this word. Blessing code 7619 is now activated. And now, receive this final charge as part of the message itself. As this word closes, it does not end. It moves. I hear the Lord saying, "Those who help carry this flame will be carried by my provision." If this message strengthened you, then act as a steward of the light. Release your support through super thanks, membership, or PayPal using the link in the description, not as a donation, but as obedience. What you sow here becomes oil that keeps this fire burning for souls who are still waiting to hear. I declare that as you give, heaven marks your obedience, opens doors you did not knock on, and multiplies what you place in God's hands. Act now. Do not delay. Seal this word with movement.